Hey guys, welcome to this video. So I know it has been a long time since I last uploaded to YouTube, and in this video I'll just be sharing some of the not sharing. I'll just be talking about some common misconceptions which I have addressed in the second edition of my book. So these misconceptions are very wide misconceptions, and a lot of people know about these misconceptions, and I myself at one point of time used to believe in some of these misconceptions. I didn't study deeply the subject, so that's why I used to believe in these misconceptions. So today I'll basically in my new edition of my book, upcoming book, about which I released a couple of videos, the most recent videos on my channel. So in this book I have treated this in a scientific manner. I have wrote about the misconceptions, and I have said why they're wrong, and I've explained everything. So if you would like to go deeper, you can buy the book once it's available. It's not available yet. So the thing is that at one point of time I used to think that quantum mechanics has a lot to do with consciousness. The basic saying was like quantum mechanics is strange, consciousness is strange, or you can say bizarre, so the two must be linked, something like that sort of reasoning. But now I would like to say that as far as we know, it may be the case. Like some physicists, for instance, Roger Penrose, he has written a book called Shadows of the Mind, and in that he has argued that the microtubules in our brain, they undergo quantum coherence and something of the sort, and this quantum mechanics is an integral part of consciousness. However, I don't find his arguments very convincing for a number of reasons. And not only his arguments, of course he's a great physicist. I don't deny that he's a great physicist and mathematician, and his contributions to the field of physics and mathematics is huge. But on this particular note, microtubules and consciousness, I don't find his arguments convincing. So the thing is that all quantum mechanics says is that, first of all, if you go with the Copenhagen interpretation, then the wave function collapses. But the Copenhagen interpretation is not the best interpretation. It's the standard one. It's taught in colleges and universities all around the world, and it's the most standard interpretation, the textbook interpretation, you can say. But it's not the best interpretation of quantum mechanics. The best interpretation is, you can say, many worlds interpretation, according to me. There is one more interpretation called superdeterminism. So when we did Bell's theorem, when I wrote about Bell's theorem, I said that Bell's theorem disproved the notion of local hidden variables. So hidden variable theory, like EPR argument that two electrons or two particles of same mass are moving in opposite directions, same momentum. To conserve the momentum, so they will move light years apart, and then you measure the velocity of one particle and you instantly know the velocity of the other particle. This kind of thing. So it was assumed initially that maybe some local hidden variables already carry the information about the velocity and stuff, and so now no information is actually passing between these particles faster than the speed of light. So that's the thing. But it was proved that there can be no local hidden theory compatible with quantum theory. Bell's inequality proved it. But there can be non-local hidden theory, and that's the idea of superdeterminism. So I will not go deep into it here, but yeah, superdeterminism is, according to me, a it has potential. It may be correct or it may not be correct, but superdeterminism, I think it has the potential to lead us to something useful, to make some useful discoveries about the nature of quantum mechanics and about the nature of the universe itself. But on the whole, if you ask me what's the best interpretation of quantum mechanics, I would say many worlds interpretation. And there is one good book about this, Something Deeply Hidden by Sean Carroll. I just finished reading the book, but it's not like I can't show it to you now because I gave the book to a friend of mine. So we can just search it. It's called Something Deeply Hidden by Sean Carroll. It's a famous book, and in that, it's a book about quantum mechanics basically, and the emergence of space-time. Near the last few chapters, he discussed the emergence of space-time. So it's a very great book, but it's mainly about the many worlds interpretation and its benefits. He explains the many worlds interpretation in a very good way. So all quantum mechanics is saying is that some measurement, or you can say some observation, but I would prefer the term measurement, is required to collapse the wave function, according to some interpretations of quantum mechanics. It's not according to quantum mechanics, it's according to certain few interpretations of quantum mechanics. Because according to many worlds interpretation, the wave function is objective. The wave function never collapses. There is only single wave function, it never collapses. This interpretation is completely objective, completely, you know what I mean. It's objective interpretation. It's totally deterministic. Like there is nothing uncertain in the many worlds interpretation. So anyway, even if you go with Copenhagen interpretation, the thing is that here any measurement in terms of quantum mechanics does not imply consciousness. Like you might have heard about things like quantum mechanics proves that the consciousness is required to for the world to exist. Conscious observation is required for the world to exist. Some physicists also believe this, like Eugene Wigner, and there's some few physicists also believe this, but I would say we have no evidence as of now to suggest that consciousness has anything to do with quantum mechanics. I'm not saying we should ignore consciousness. Obviously, I am very much interested in consciousness, as some of you know, but I think we shouldn't mix up consciousness and quantum mechanics. That's all I want to say. We shouldn't mix these two subjects up, because that's more pseudoscience than science. That's more like nonsense than science. And one more thing is that I was doing a bit of research about realism and solipsism. So solipsism, at one point of time I believed in solipsism. Solipsism is basically the view that the reality is just ideas in your mind. Only your mind exists and nothing else exists. Everything else is just ideas in your mind. This kind of belief. And realism means the objective reality exists outside, independent of us. Regardless of whether we are present or not, the reality exists as it is. So but some people claim that, and this is an incorrect claim, they claim that quantum mechanics proves solipsism is true, or rather quantum mechanics prove that there is no objective reality out there. So this is completely like, some versions of quantum mechanics do make this claim, but it's completely incorrect to say that quantum mechanics claims there is no objective reality out there. This is completely incorrect. This is a great misunderstanding of the subject. Because see, objective reality, according to me, I have done a bit of research. I've read a lot of books in these couple of months, these last few months, a lot of books, and I've read a lot of articles, and I delved deep into the subject. And maybe my research was not adequate. Maybe I should have looked for at other places. But according to me, according to what I did find on the internet, and I also talked with a couple of physicists and stuff. So according to me, objective reality, the existence of objective reality or realism, the view that Einstein proposed, the Einstein was a supporter of. That not exactly. I don't believe Einstein was correct in all respects. Like, he was incorrect in the EPR paradox respect. It was not a paradox at all. Entanglement was true, but entanglement did not violate relativity because no information was transferred. It's just that a coherent system, a single entangled system is described by a single wave function. But the thing is that Einstein's way of thinking, his basic philosophy about the world, seems to be the most reasonable one, the best one. And I think, see, there are some things we should believe. There are some things we cannot prove. Like, we cannot prove solipsism is false. You can never prove it. Because everything you are saying, everything you are doing it from your perspective, from the perspective of your mind. You cannot prove that the reality out there exists. But just because we cannot prove something is false doesn't mean it is true, and doesn't mean we should rather waste our time believing it's true. I've all these points I've included in the book, but I'm just doing a general discussion because I think these topics are very important, and I know most of you will not buy the book, so I'm not doing business with the book. So obviously I don't want to confine these topics to the book, because I think these topics are important to discuss. But if you want a detailed discussion, obviously you can buy the book, but that's up to you. So anyway, that's one thing. So I would say we don't have enough evidence to claim that quantum mechanics says the reality is not objective. The existence of an objective reality is compatible with quantum mechanics, just that it's not the kind of reality Newton dreamed of. It's not the kind of super deterministic, like, not that kind of reality that's it's completely deterministic, not that kind of reality, but still it's objective reality, that's for sure. And one more thing about free will. So basically this video is about some myths regarding quantum mechanics. So some people claim that quantum mechanics prove that there is free will, because at the fundamental level everything is random. The wave function collapse, the vacuum fluctuations, and the virtual particles, the change in energy fluctuations, all these things are probabilistic and random. You cannot predict these things, they just happen randomly. So if you cannot predict this thing, then it likely means that the universe cannot be predicted and everything is not predetermined, and so there is some kind of free will. This is the kind of reasoning. Now I would say, look, I believe in free will. This is some part of me believes in free will, at least. Some part of me believes in free will. But I don't think quantum mechanics says that free will exists, because what do we mean by free will? First we have to understand this very clearly. What do we mean by free will? Free will means I am influencing something by my thought, by my consciousness. But if a quantum wave function is collapsing randomly, can I influence it by my thought? Can I, by thinking about it, can I? Yeah, there is one thing called the quantum Zeno effect. By observing a particle, you can like slow down its decay and that sort of thing. But I'm not talking about the quantum Zeno effect or the Turing test, not Turing paradox. I think it's called something Turing something, named after Alan Turing. But I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the Zeno effect. I'm talking about in general. Your observation matters. Obviously, your observation matters. Measurement matters. It even changes the system being measured. But I would say, and that is the most sensible thing to say as of now, these particles, these vacuum fluctuations and all these things which are random in quantum mechanics, which are probabilistic in quantum mechanics, they cannot be affected by you and I directly. We cannot affect them directly. So they don't prove free will exists. Yeah, maybe the universe is not completely deterministic. And one more thing is that free will and determinism, strictly speaking, are not antonyms of one another. It's not that they are incompatible. It may be the case that free will exists in a deterministic universe. That may be the case in a different sense. I don't want to go deep into this, but discussed all of this in the book. So it may be the case. And what I believe right now is that free will is an emergent property of consciousness. So I see consciousness as an emergent property, and if consciousness is an emergent property, so we cannot explain consciousness just by studying the physical matter of the brain, just by studying the parts of the brain. So obviously we can't do that. So the consciousness is something more than if we just take the physical matter of the brain. Similarly, free will is something extra which we get when all the neurons and stuff interact in the precise right pattern and stuff. So free will is itself emergent from consciousness. So although the atoms and particles that make us up, although they do not have free will, but on the whole we humans have free will. So that's my view as of now, and I've argued like why this is my view, why do I believe in this. I've argued I've written down all my logical reasoning in the book, and I've also discussed the idea that consciousness is fundamental, and some ideas called panpsychism and some stuff. A lot of people have talked about panpsychism. A lot of my friends and stuff, they told me about panpsychism, and personally, I don't think panpsychism is necessary right now. It may be true, but I don't think it's necessary right now to believe in panpsychism. So I prefer not to believe in it. And I've discussed every possibility, but again, as I've already said, in this edition of the book, I've focused more on those possibilities, those explanations which are scientific and backed up by evidence. So this book is pure science. This is just a scientific book. It's all the metaphysical stuff and those stuff which were not backed up by evidence in the original edition. They have been removed or edited by taking into account recent discoveries. So I think you'll love the book, especially if you have loved the original edition. But there are a lot of changes. It's not like if you have read the original edition, you will learn nothing new from the book. It's not like that. There are a lot of changes in the content and structuring as well. So yeah, and near the end of the book, in the conclusion part, the epilogue. There is a prologue and epilogue. That's a new feature I've tried with this book. There is a prologue and epilogue. That's a surprise for my readers. I will not reveal what about that here. You have to buy the book if you want to see it. I'll not reveal the prologue and epilogue here. It's just a prologue and epilogue. It's nothing anything not too great or anything. But yeah, in the conclusion, I've also written a bit about the meaning of life, existential crisis, and nihilism, existentialism, this kind of thing. This is a great issue. Like, this is a huge issue in today's society, for especially in some people, in some particular class of people. I myself I myself am a bit existential, and I used to be a bit existential, rather not now, but yeah, I have some deep realizations. I've had some deep realizations on this topic, so I've included all of that in the book, and I've also included some my personal story, like my struggle in lately, like for the last 2 years, some unfortunate happenings, like my life took certain unfortunate turns. There were some unfortunate happenings in my life, and I learned a lot from the story. Actually, I learned a lot from my own life. So I've included in the introduction, in the conclusion, and in some appendix, like the end portion of the chapter, I've included all those stories. mainly because although it's a book of science and it's mostly about science, but it's about physics, but it's you can learn something from my story. That's my argument. That's why I've included this in the book. And I'm planning to do a video about how to deal with anxiety, depression, and mental health issues soon. So I'm working on that video. That's gonna be a good video. Like, I'm working on it. It's gonna be a serious video, not just on the camera and just speak one or two lines. It's gonna be a serious video. So stay tuned in for that. But I need some time. And of course, I'm busy with admissions now. For my physics honors course, BSc honors in physics, and so don't expect the video too soon. But I'm planning to do it. And as for the book, some of you have been asking. The book is almost complete. I'm just doing the editing portion, and it will be over by hopefully by the end of this month, by the end of August. And I'm gonna release it on during the Durga Puja, or maybe even before, like during sometime in September. I'm gonna release it, you can say sometime in September. So yeah, guys, and that's all I wanted to say. If you would like to discuss any of this with me or anything, you can obviously of course comment below. And so that's all, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.